So, we just got some big updates on version 5.5's banners, and we already know 3 out of the 4 characters coming. That means we're not completely in the dark anymore, and there's a solid idea of what the lineup will look like. But that's not the only thing worth talking about. HoYoverse might finally be making a big change to one of Genshin Impact's most outdated mechanics, the farming system. In this video, I'll break down everything we know so far: who's getting a rerun, which new characters are likely making their debut, what this potential farming system change could mean for the game, and what to expect from the upcoming beta. There's a lot to cover, so let's get into it. A few days ago, speculation about Xianyun getting a rerun in 5.5 started spreading. The first place I saw this was on Flying Flame's post, but since that leaker has stopped sharing information, their post is now gone. However, there's still a post with a simple "long time no see" alongside an illustration of Xianyun, which is making people think that it's a teaser for her return. Some claim the source of this info is Andy via Spletnik Fatui and Impact Mouse on X, so while it's not completely clear who originally shared it, this is still a very strong possibility. If we step back and analyze it, Xianyun makes a lot of sense for a rerun in 5.5. Ever since 5.1, every version has included a character who debuted during the Fontaine arc. Shiori was featured in 5.1, Liney and Nouvelette in 5.2, Clorinde and Arlecchino in 5.3, and Fiorina alongside Sigewinne in 5.4. It's only natural that 5.5 follows this trend and brings back another Fontaine-released character. The remaining options are Emily and Xianyun, and considering Emily was released very late into Fontaine's cycle, Xianyun is the much more likely pick. Another character who is practically confirmed for 5.5 is Venti. At this point, it's almost guaranteed since he's the last Archon who hasn't had a rerun in Natlan. The only way this doesn't happen is if HoYoverse suddenly decides to break the cycle entirely, and like they did with Fiorina Rerun, but that's highly unlikely. The safest bet is that Venti will be returning in 5.5. Now, on to the new characters. We know that both Xianyun and Veresa are Electro, so it's extremely unlikely that both of them will be 5-star units. The best guess is that Veresa will be the new 5-star, while Xianyun will be a 4-star. That lineup would make sense, considering how HoYoverse usually handles new character releases. Xianyun has been rumored for several patches now, originally expected in 5.2, then 5.4, and now seemingly set for 5.5. If she's finally being released, making her a 4-star would be a logical move so she doesn't overshadow Veresa. Initially, there was some speculation that Aoife might be featured here, but after checking the character ID order from HomDG Cat again, it turns out that the next character after Veresa isn't from Natlan at all. That means the next major release won't be another Natlan character. Whether or not this mystery character is appearing in 5.5 is unclear, but if they do, it could be someone completely unexpected. I think it's going to be Dahlia. He's a long-rumored 4-star character, and what makes this even more interesting is that he's actually from Mondstadt, not Natlan. And if we're getting a Venti rerun in 5.5, then it's very possible that the main event of this update will take place in Mondstadt. If that's the case, then introducing Dahlia alongside Venti would make perfect sense. HoYoverse usually ties new characters to their respective regions through events, so if 5.5 shifts focus to Mondstadt, then Dahlia is almost guaranteed to be part of it. I think it's very likely that the 4th banner in 5.5 will feature an Inazuma character. If we look at the current banner cycle, Inazuma characters are long overdue for a rerun, and the top of the 5.4 waiting list is filled with them. At this point, Kokomi stands out as one of the most likely candidates. She hasn't had a rerun in a long time, and with the way HoYoverse rotates banners, it makes perfect sense for her to finally return. Of course, other Inazuma characters like Ayato, Ayaka, or even Yae Miko could also be possibilities, but based on the current gaps in reruns, Kokomi seems like the strongest contender. So far, version 5.5's banner lineup is shaping up to be pretty solid. Veresa's debut as a new 5-star Electro unit, Venti's nearly confirmed rerun, and Xianyun's expected return make for an interesting mix. The biggest mystery is the last slot, and whether HoYoverse sticks to expectations or throws in a surprise character will be something to keep an eye on. It looks like HoYoverse might finally be considering changing one of Genshin Impact's most outdated mechanics, the farming system. Right now, there's an official survey going around asking players how they feel about the current resource farming setup, and if they're satisfied with how materials for talents and weapons are locked behind specific days of the week. The survey also touches on weekly boss materials, which are currently limited to just one collection per week. This time-gated system has been a long-standing issue for many players, especially those who want to quickly level up new characters but are forced to wait days or even weeks just to get the right materials. It's one of the few mechanics in Genshin that hasn't evolved much over time, and compared to other HoYoverse games, it feels pretty outdated. For example, in Honkai Star Rail and Zenless Zone Zero, players can farm character and weapon upgrade materials at any time without being forced to wait for a specific day. This level of flexibility makes grinding much smoother and more player-friendly, so if Genshin adopts a similar system, it could be one of the biggest quality-of-life updates in years. While there's no official confirmation yet, the fact that HoYoverse is actively gathering feedback on this topic suggests that they might be considering a change. No more waiting for the right day to farm Ascension books, no more being stuck with the wrong boss drops for weeks. It would make leveling up new characters so much smoother. Of course, we have to keep expectations in check since we don't know if or when these changes will happen, but with the 5.5 beta starting soon, we might get some clues in the upcoming updates. Based on player feedback, HoYoverse will ultimately decide whether or not to change the farming system, so if you want to see improvements, I highly encourage you to fill out the survey. This could be our chance to push for a more flexible system, and at the very least, it shows that they're considering making adjustments. Right now, we don't have that much concrete info about the full 5.5 lineup, so things are still a bit up in the air. The current state of leaks feels a little stalled. There's been speculation, hints, and patterns to follow, but nothing too definitive beyond what we've already discussed. However, that's about to change very soon. The 5.5 beta is set to start in just 2 days, and once that happens, expect a huge wave of new info dropping throughout the week. We'll likely get full details on Veresa, Ian-san, and any surprise characters, plus potential event storylines and gameplay changes. So if you're waiting for solid confirmations, it won't be long now. Let me know in the comments which banner you're hoping for in 5.5 and what you think about a possible farming system rework. Save up to 23% on 5.3 banners at lootbar.gg. All you need is your UID and server. The link is in the description.